Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Hello and welcome to Countryside here on Manx Radio. I'm Simon Clark.
And I'm Kirree Kermode. On Sunday, I went down to a very busy Southern Vintage Engine and Tractor Club celebration.
The 2023 Soil Farmer of the Year, Stuart Johnson, was on the island. I found out why. And also I spoke to the Managing Director of Manx Birdlife, Alison Leonard. Well, welcome to Countryside. Plenty to squeeze in the last of this series, so let's crack on. I went along to speak to Alison Leonard, who is the Managing Director of Manx Birdlife, to find out more about the news that the Manx Birdlife are going to open the nature reserve at the Point of Ayr to the public.
Yes, hopefully this summer we will be opening our Manx Birdlife Point of Ayr National Reserve to the public for the first time.
Now, this has been a project that's been ongoing for many years. I think your colleague Chris Sharp, was he one of the instigators originally?
Yeah, Chris started this process well over 20 years ago.
20 years?
20 years it has, yeah. When you say it's a long-term project, it is definitely a long-term project. So yeah, over 20 years ago, Chris had this idea that we could take the former mineral quarry up at the Point of Ayr and turn it into something spectacular for nature. It took a very long time, but in 2019 we signed a lease with Island Aggregates for 105 acres. And that's what we are now working on developing for both the wildlife and for the people.
Was it brought about by going out walking with the pair of binoculars and seeing, oh wow, there's a lot of different bird life here that could benefit for something like this?
Yeah, taking these old working quarries, it's quite a well-established process, taking it from the industry to nature. It's been done quite a few times across in the UK. And yeah, Chris just had that idea of it's something that we could do here and create something very special. The species that you find up there are predominantly sort of wading birds and waterfowl, so duck species like mallards, which I think everybody knows, tufted ducks. You've got things like gadwall, which the reserve is the only place on the island that they really breed as a species. You've also got things like the common terns and the Arctic terns. So I think people know that up at the Point of Ayr you've got the Arctic terns nesting. But ground nesting birds like that really, really struggle because of predators. They're taking both the eggs and their young. So what we've done within the reserve is we've created some islands for ground nesting birds like the terns. We've got some floating rafts that we're hoping that terns will come along. And for the last couple of years, we've had one common tern turn up. We're hoping at some point he will bring along a mate. And if he ever does do that, and they successfully breed up for the first time in 50 years, that common terns will have bred on the island. So it's creating an area like that where it's there to keep the birds that we have, quite common birds that are, keep them safe, but also we're trying to develop it to bring back some of the species that we might have lost across the island.
But opening something like this to the public, we'll get to when that might happen very shortly, but it comes with a lot of challenges, I would imagine.
A lot of challenges and a lot of work. We signed the lease with Island Aggregates in 2019. We appointed our reserve manager, David, in 2020, just in time for everything to shut down for COVID, which in a way wasn't necessarily a bad thing. It gave David a lot of thinking time, a lot of planning, because these things take so much planning. And yeah, since then we've created a welcome area. We're putting in sort of interpretation for people, signage. We've got the bird watching hide, so people can get in out of the weather if need be, and sort of use that to see the birds. And that's before we even get to who do we invite to events and things like that. So
I've been lucky enough to be shown round by Neil Morris and the team there on a private opening day, and it really is magical what I've seen the quarry in a working state in my time, and to see it how it is now. It's really a place of beauty as well as the wildlife that's there, isn't it?
It is. It surprises me how few people know that it's there. And that's something that we're hoping to change to a certain extent, as much as we want to share it with people. we're sort of trying to decide how many people we want to share it with, because we don't want to spoil what we have. It is a fantastic place. You can go for a lovely, quiet, gentle walk. You've got the birds singing in the spring. You can watch the ducks on the water. It's a very special place. It's a very mindful place, which we're aware of. It's a great place to go, just get away from everything.
When is the public opening planned for?
So we are aiming to be open to the public 2 days a week from mid-July.
This year?
This year, yes. Yeah. July 2024.
There's plenty more work, ongoing work, I'd imagine. And you mentioned you do have a lot of volunteers. How important is that to Manx Birdlife?
Our volunteers are so important to what we do. We're a small charity. We've only got 3 paid members of staff, and we do a lot of things across the island, so not just the reserve. So having our volunteers who come along, whether it be on the reserve every third Sunday of the month to help out David, our reserve manager, with some of the things that he just couldn't do on his own, whether it's coming into the office to help us with data entry, whether it's people who bring skills that we don't necessarily have. They're fantastic. We couldn't do this without our volunteers. We really couldn't.
And what about the birds here on the Isle of Man? I mean, it's been a tough year, 6 months so far. I mean, the start of the year was pretty dreadful with storms and just flooding everywhere. Has that affected the Manx Birdlife?
It definitely doesn't help. I mean, we've obviously got some really iconic species here on the island, things like the hen harriers and the chough. Having these wet, really unpredictable springs and early summer that we're having these days, it definitely can't help the birds. They'll be struggling to sort of get enough food so that they're in good condition to breed and things like that. So, yeah, it definitely has an impact on the bird life.
Yeah, and of course, the fairly famous, even when I was a child, the chough was always mentioned as something the Isle of Man to be proud of. How's the chough population?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of our more, as I say, iconic species. The Isle of Man holds about a third of all the chough across the UK.
Really?
The British Islands. Yeah, the island is incredibly important for the chough. You've got places like the Calf of Man, which has the most densely populated breeding for chough. I think it's 14 nests within, don't quote me on that number, actually, I can't actually remember, maybe 11 nests within, the Calf of Man. So, yeah, the island is incredibly important for chough. They're one of those fantastic species that, we're lucky to have here. And we are hoping over the next, we've started this year, we're going to finish next year a whole island census, so we can get a good snapshot of where the chough are. But we think it's a positive picture.
The Calf of Man, obviously, I've had the chance to visit a few times, and last time I was there, I think there was a bit of a puffin project going on with decoys to try and encourage some to land there on their journeys past.
Yeah, so the Calf of Man is, obviously it's owned by Manx Natural Heritage, and the Manx Wildlife Trust manage it. But yeah, they've got a fantastic project in there, trying to encourage puffins back in the same way that they have with the Manx shearwaters. And species like puffins and the terns up at the Point of Ayre as well, to a certain extent, they are social nesters, and they like to know that somewhere is safe before they'll nest. So by having those decoys and by playing out the calls that they do, hopefully what they're going to be able to do is sort of encourage those puffins back to nest.
So the island bird life for then, not too bad, Hans?
I think it's always going to be a mixed picture. So you're going to have species, things like the yellowhammer, which unfortunately we've lost as a breeding species over the last 20 years or so. But then you've got species like the great spotted woodpecker, which is now coming in and is pretty much across the island. Our hen harriers are doing pretty well, things like the chough as well. Yeah, it'll always be a mixed bag for species, but overall, hopefully it's a healthy and positive picture.
The director of Manx Birdlife, Alison Leonard. Great news there, Kirree, isn't it?
It really is fabulous, and the island is so full of great nature and so many trails and protected areas, and this is just great for the Manx public to get out and enjoy it, equally the same as everybody that's involved with the work there.
Yeah, and use it responsibly.
Absolutely.
Well, that's something new. You were at something old.
Indeed I was. The Southern Vintage Engine and Tractor Club. They never let us down. What a display they put on there in the Southern 100 Field in Castletown. I popped along to catch up with some of the prize winners and to find out how it was all going. Well, Bill Galley, I finally caught up with you. I was told to find you with a bowler hat on and you'd be covered in oil.
Well, yes, this is true on both roads, yes. I do clean occasionally, but not today.
Not today. Well, how has it been? This is a wonderful turnout here in this Dr. Meadows Field.
Yeah, it's been fine. It's been a good show. Everybody's thoroughly enjoyed it. Our visitors from the UK are having a good time. We've got the big Blackstone engine over there, first time over here, and it's a wonderful 1908, 8 horsepower, it's a wonderful thing. It's got best in show, which I'd expect, and the farming community have done as well and turned out in numbers. The weather's the only thing. Thursday let us down. We've got the steam wagon and the roller and the Leyland bus up there, but we can't bring them in the field.
Oh, what a blow.
Well, we don't want to ruin the field. We want to come back next year.
But this is it. This typical Manx weather always has its part to play. But a glorious afternoon here watching the rosettes being given out, Bill.
Yeah, well, yes, there's a few gone out. I mean, people have got them out. They're richly deserved. I mean, I can't say too much, but I enjoy doing it. No, it's been an excellent 2 days.
And there's so much to see. We've been just in the crafts and models there, looking at some of the model tractors. Gosh, they must go back decades.
Yes, there's the man who's brought them down. There's a really excellent collection, and he's not here. Yesterday we had a working model railway here all day, and that was excellent. And he got first prize in the models for that, and richly deserved. He's coming back, and after the Grand Parade, we're going to present the silverware to everybody who's earned it. So,
and you talk about Grand Parade, there is a huge number of tractors and implements and everything to be seen. This must be one of the biggest shows of vintage that's been around for a while.
I think so, yes. I mean, we want to move the club on year on year. We build on each year thanks to Stephen the landowner, who's happy to support us. We're moving in the right direction. We want to do something different every year and build on it, and so everybody can enjoy. And we educate especially the children, how farming was done, and encourage them for the next generation to take over the custodianship of the equipment.
Well, this is it. And like Sheila Gorn, they received the first prize, we were chatting earlier, was saying that a lot of tractors and implements are getting dragged out of the briars now because it's a thing that's really, really taken on. It's a real hobby.
Yes, you're getting more and more people who want to restore them before they go to the scrap man.
Yeah. And the hours and time and effort that goes into it, though, Bill, you know yourself.
Hundreds of hours to do it properly. I mean, it takes nearly all year to get ready for the show. Even when it's restored, it can break down, as I've had a couple of breakdowns. So probably not next weekend, I'll have a break, but after that it's back down on a Sunday morning, get them ready for the Southern show, and then repair them again for the Royal show, and then carry on and get everything ready for next year. It takes nearly 12 months of preparation to get ready for these 2 days.
My goodness me. What age do you think, on average, most of this machinery will be?
Post-war, 1945 to about 1965, I would say. With the tractors, with the engines, the oldest engine is a National Oil and Gas engine that worked on a farm at Kirree. That's 1920, and the visiting engine is 1908. So the engines are probably older. The tractors are mainly post-war, and the cars are mainly post-war.
And then to see where we are just now, here we come.
We've got Dave Corrin with the modern one giving the tractor rides, yes.
And it's just the sheer size of that New Holland in comparison to the Massey Fergusons here.
Absolutely. It's a good comparison, but they haven't come this year, mainly because of the weather. 1 or 2 haven't come. But last year we had JDW came down, and they had the new stuff with the old stuff, and that was quite an interesting show.
And it's incredible how it's evolved. I know we had the Open Farm Sunday there the other weekend, and we had the horses, the big Blackshire horses, and then the smaller tractors, and then the big tractors. But how life on the farm has changed, Bill, over the years.
Absolutely. It's evolved. I mean, it's a lot less labour intensive than it was and a lot easier because the likes of these tractors and the engines, it's hard work. I mean, fine doing it for a 2-day show, but to do it 5 days a week, you're a better man than I'd be, put it that way, to do it full time.
This is it, absolutely. Well, anyway, there's ice cream, there's refreshments. You've really gone to town and getting something for everybody. The bouncy castle as well.
Yes, we try and cater for everybody at the show, and we like to see everybody and all are welcome.
Yeah.
I have a band of stalwarts who come year in, year out and do weeks and weeks, about a week to put it up and a week to take it down. And in particular this year we need to thank the Isle of Man Railways and in particular the Foden steam wagon owners who specifically left the engine on the island to attend this show. It goes on the boat tonight. I mean,
what a privilege.
Absolutely, and I was privileged enough to have a ride on it earlier this week with the owner, so we must thank in particular Tom Atwood and Brian Allenson for bringing it over and allowing it to stay over, and it will come back at some point. And we need to thank the judges who are visiting, our visitors from across who judged the show this year, and the sponsor of the show, Steam Packet, Bobby Sadler, JDW, and in particular Crystals, who have all given us help and sponsored the show. So thanks to everybody that's helped us with the show, and we look forward to doing it again next year. And I'm sure we'll have something different next year. I mean, this year we've extended the roadworks, and thanks to Fred at JCK, we had the JTB down, which normally stays with the roadworks, and we've got some other ideas for next year. So wait and see what we do next year. Something I need to mention was we did a new one this year. We had a tractor run on the Saturday night, and there were 17 tractors. Well, I need to thank in particular the Isle of Man Kirree. They did an absolutely superb job of the traffic management and marshalling. We went around the Southern 100 course anti-clockwise to avoid the congestion at Duck Street, and I cannot have nothing but praise for the police. We liaised with them, we worked it out for them, for their help. So grateful thanks to the police. Everybody in the tractor run thoroughly enjoyed it. There were 17 tractors, so it was worth doing.
Definitely worth doing. And I did see lots of children lining the hedges in Ballabeg.
I followed them, and I was quite impressed with the number of people right round the course who were sat watching it, so it was well worth doing. Again, it educates them as to how it was done, and hopefully gets the interest and gets the next generation in, because that's the important thing. I'll do this for as long as I can, but we need the younger generation in to follow us on.
Absolutely, I fully agree, Bill, but you never know, it could be the next race in the Southern 100.
Well, let's see what happens next year.
Well, Sheila Gorn, this looks pretty impressive. A bright red first prize rosette on your tractor. Wow.
Yeah, I won't have to get it dirty when I go do the veg now.
But there's some story behind this tractor.
Yeah, there is. We bought this from the Isle of Man farmers second hand. It been when working on the farm for helping with the veg on the ridges. Then it decided to conk out. We bought some bits and pieces, got it going partly, and then it conked out again. And it sat on the yard for about 2.5 years. Then we asked, shall we say, a very, very good friend now, Brian Plant, if he could help us with the restoration. And he has done a spot-on job. Couldn't have asked for better.
It just looks like it's brand new.
Well, I call it Trigger's Broom. They keep saying it's all original. How can it be original? We've got all these new parts on it. But it's Trigger's Broom to me.
But what we're looking at here, a Massey Ferguson 135, and now there's a photograph of her on your yard with the Bolland Bane, the ginnies, the old cow muck round the wheels, no bonnet, definitely no cab. She looked a little bit worse for wear only 10 weeks ago.
Yep, he's done a phenomenal job with it, in such a short space of time, and we found out that it had been an industrial tractor, so some of the parts had to be replaced with different ones that we'd bought. So it's been an interesting journey for all of us to see it from one shade of red to another.
It is. That restoration, it's something to be very, very proud of. It's bringing back the history of this little old tractor.
Well, this is it. I mean, it's good that all the vintage guys that are prepared to do this. I know it's a hobby and an investment, but it's still part of our heritage.
Yeah, and like you say, now this tractor will go on and help you with your veg business and the farming at Pool Vash still.
Yeah, this is it. It was bought to do a job, and it will do that job now. It's back up and running, so yes, I've got a nice shiny tractor.
How proud you are. But a stiff class of competition you had though, Sheila.
Oh, you just look around here, and I said it's these shows have grown over here on the Isle of Man and across. They're just so popular, and tractors and machinery are just being dragged out of hedgerows, old barns, and it really is the sort of thing to be in now.
Yeah, it's so satisfying. And Brian himself, he had a tractor in the same class. I think it got a second though.
Oh well. Ours was more recently done than his. He's been using his a little bit, but yeah. No, we just can't thank him enough for spending all the time, and in sort of like 10 weeks he's done it to this.
Yeah.
It went off the yard 10 weeks ago, like I say, rust red, and it's come back the Massey Ferguson red.
And how did you feel when you first saw her?
Well, the first time I'd seen her fully restored was Friday afternoon, when I came down on the field, and I just said, that's ours.
You still knew her then?
I still knew her, yeah.
Yeah.
We're both, Stephen and myself, are really pleased. And no, we didn't expect to get anything. It's nice, it's the icing on the cake, and I think Brian well deserves that red rosette.
Tell him after. I was offered $9,000 for that one.
$9,000?
Yeah.
So you've done Sheila's and Stephen Gordon's one here today. The first prize, you got second, Brian. How are you feeling?
I'm very well, yeah.
Well, you must be a sense of pride to see a job that you've done. Obviously, they're so proud to have received the red ribbon, but for the hard work you've put into it.
Yeah, it's just I like doing them, and that's it.
It's just a hobby.
Yeah, just a hobby.
My word, but it is absolutely just gorgeous, isn't it?
Yeah, it does look well, considering what it was before.
Well, this is it, yeah. And how do you go about getting the parts? Because obviously everything takes forever now, and hunting them down.
No, parts, they're pretty good to get hold of, right? They're not...
For the Massey in particular?
Yeah.
There's some display here we're sat on at the minute, Brian, like all ages, all sizes. You know, what are these tractors worth these days?
Well, I don't know. It's whatever somebody's willing to pay, really. But yeah, there must be a few bob. They're going up in price. But yeah.
But you just do it for the love of it, obviously, not for the values.
No, I'll be well gone before they're sold. It won't bother me.
And we've had a judge here from the UK. What was he looking for on these ones?
I don't know. There was two lads, both tractormen. They got loads of tractors themselves. But they give them a good once over, and I think they were just looking at originality and what work they'd done to get it up to what the standard is. But yeah, they give them a good coat of looking at.
Yeah. No, everyone was in anticipation here when the rosettes were getting sent out, but quite a number of tractors in each class now.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, I don't know who got the old ones, but the class these are in. There's quite a few of them here today.
Yeah. Good show, just generally though, Brian.
Yeah, it is a good show. Yeah, I'm happy. Yeah, it's getting bigger. I think every year. Yeah, it's nice.
And the work that goes into getting them all carted down here. Some will go on the roads, but some maybe not so much.
Well, mine are all roadworthy. But you still got to get them here.
This is it.
And get somebody to take you back for another one. And it's all good fun.
Yeah, this is it. There we go. That was the prize winner Sheila Gorn and the tractor restorer Brian Plant, along with organiser Bill Galley.
Plenty of hours going into keeping them old machines going, isn't it?
Oh, they look such a picture, Simon. They were gleaming in that sunshine that we had at the weekend. It was just fantastic to see how much effort had gone into that show, and absolutely brilliant for all of the family.
You're listening to Countryside here on Manx Radio with Kirree Kermode and myself, Simon Clark. Well, a man by the name of Stuart Johnson visited the island last week. He is voted the Soil Farmer of the Year in 2023. He was on the island as a guest of FWAG to talk about some of the invited guests from the farm and wildlife world of the Isle of Man to talk about what you can do with your farm and your soil.
We were invited across to sort of run a few soil health workshops in an effort to sort of enable or help farmers to do commodity production farming alongside nature, rather than sort of trying to knock nature out of the way as they're doing it. So we've been doing it for a few years now, where we enhance the soil life, enhance the soil functionality, which then in turn sort of gives us a lot of free elements, so we have to stop buying stuff, and makes life a little bit cheaper and easier to run a farm. So that's what we're trying to do.
Is it more trying to use the stuff that's round about us rather than using artificial stuff to do the same, give you the same result?
Exactly, yeah. So in our type of farming, we're trying to grow really long, big, tall grasses, graze it down, that comes back out of the animals as manure, and then we're trying to create like a cyclical system whereby we're just constantly cycling those nutrients around. So we very rarely need to bring in inputs from outside of that, which just has a big cost saving for everyone involved, which is the key to it all, is making this as cheap as possible. So
I suppose it's taken everything back to its roots in a way, where years ago everything was crop rotation, and is this on a similar sort of thing? But
that's exactly it. Yeah. So we're basically going back to the way people, with a modern twist to it, we're going back to the way things that we used to do it, or people used to enjoy farming like that. So we have a lot of modern technology we can bring into that, such as the polywire electric fencing to create high density stock and grazing systems. But we also have, really super high in depth soil samples that obviously people didn't have access to in the past. So when we put all that together, it's an old system but with a modern twist on it. We still have the perimeter fences, but what we do is we split that field up into lots of little paddocks with the electric fence. So basically we are creating very small areas that then we put a lot of high density stocking rates onto with cattle or sheep, and then we basically give that field, that area, a huge rest. So it could be 30, 60, more often than not 100 days plus rest before we come back and graze it again, which means that basically the plants has time to recover and rest rather than just recover from that grazing. So we get big long roots down, which creates aggregation, which creates all of the soil functionality that lets us get free stuff, so we don't have to buy it. So
obviously from Northumberland area, Stuart, how have you found the inquiries here at the workshop from the Isle of Man, people involved in the wildlife and farmers? You had a bit of a mixed bag today, have you?
Yeah, there's been a great spectrum of people here, which has been really good to see. There's a lot of people showing a lot of interest in this sort of method of farming, this style of farming. I think the island's beautiful. We've never been before, it's my first time. We spent the whole day yesterday in rain, but actually the sun's out today, so we're seeing some really nice scenery on the way around. So the island's beautiful. Everyone has been complaining about tiny little fields here, but for me that's like the most perfect opportunity to not have to spend all my time putting electric fences up. So some people don't like those little fields, but to me it seems like just the perfect way of manoeuvring animals around in a really easy, low maintenance sort of way. So yeah, the island's set up beautifully for this sort of this method of farming. So
the Isle of Man, the original Manx, like us here, aren't too keen on change. Mm-hmm. How has it been taken back home where you're from?
Yeah, probably pretty similar.
Is it?
I think a lot of the time is that it's people don't like change. Farmers don't like change, full stop. I think farmers like the idea that someone will turn up and tell them how much fertilizer to put on, how much chemical they need to apply. And I think a lot of the time, as farmers, we've had that beaten out of us a little bit, that decision-making process, or that observation that we need to make our own decisions. We just rely on someone else. So I think this method of farming is very different in that regard, in terms of I know my farm better than anyone else will, so I should be able to decide what's the best thing to do for that. So we don't really rely on many people coming in to advise in this scenario. It's just an educational point. Hopefully we can send people on the way and they've learned something and they'll just run with it from there, and then they'll hopefully develop more harmonious farming in nature, but also in a much more productive and profitable way. So
it's the perfect opportunity, though, for people who may not know much about it. Obviously, you've been involved in it for quite a while now. So I suppose to ask the right questions and get the right answers is so important as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and finding the information and education on this has been really difficult. So I guess we're part of an educational team with Understanding Ag, and we go out and we just basically educate the farmers. So our whole goal is to not be there getting, taking money off you for doing stuff. What we want to do is just educate and send you on your way and get out there. And people have been really good at asking really informative, enlightening questions, which I love. I think that there's obviously a few sceptical eye rolls a lot of the time from some of the stuff we say, which is very understandable. But I think once we get into the how and the why of it all and really sort of get into the field and talk about it and show what we're doing, people sort of understand that how important a lot of this is. And rather than thinking about things in isolation, about how something's not going to impact on something else, we like to think of things as a whole, whereby it's a system approach. So what we do here is going to impact on other stuff and other livestock grading and throughout the whole farm. So once we look at that from a whole approach and a system, it makes life a lot easier to deal with it. So what we do impacts on everything else on the farm, and we need to remember that. Our decisions have to be positive for everything, not just for that positive one little moment, snapshot in time. So.
And that's the beauty of having somebody like yourselves and your team here on the Isle of Man, because they can see you face to face and get the answers to the questions they may not if they're just reading it somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's been a lot of the time we just talk, and then all of a sudden someone will ask one or two questions, and then that one or two questions might turn into a 30-minute discussion. And that's the beauty of it, is that we're happy to stand here and get quizzed on anything you want to talk about, and it might deviate off into certain areas and it might come back and go again somewhere else. And I think that is the best way to learn. People don't want to have someone standing there telling them what they should be doing. What we want to do is have a conversation and work our way to the answer together. So we want the farmers to understand that they can do this whole thing without us at all involved. They need to be able to just learn to do their own observations and then make decisions based on that.
There we go, the guest on the Isle of Man, the winner of the Soil Farmer of the Year 2023 from Northumberland, visiting the island for the first time, Stuart Johnson. And great, the simple things he had there, and they had that workshop demonstrating about the rotating it quickly on the grass and everything, and using as much as off the manure and doing it as best you can instead of buying it, which I suppose makes sense, doesn't it?
Absolutely does that. And it's hard to believe we've gone full circle, Simon, back to what the old people used to do, mixed farming, rotations of the fields. It's just very simple practice, but maybe we've forgotten about it. To have him over to teach us a bit more, it's just brilliant.
It is indeed. That's it for this series of Countryside. Catch up on all the Countryside episodes on manxradio.com. Just type in Countryside on the podcast, and we'll be back soon with the next series of Countryside. So until then, from me, Simon Clark,
And me, Kirree,
we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.